Welcome back to the county seat. Our topic today is the outmigration of youth from Utah's rural counties and what can possibly be done to either provide opportunities for them to be prepared to make the move or provide opportunities for them to stay in the rural part of the state. Joining us for this debate is the Carbon County Economic Development Director, Delynn Fielding. Thank you for joining us. And Rob Adams, who's Director of Property Development for a company called Redco, but was previously the Beaver County Economic Development Director. Rob, your philosophy with your children has been prepare them to leave. And so that's been your focus as you've gone through raising them. You want to support that argument?
Yeah, we moved, I grew up in Monticello, and then about 16 years ago I moved back to Beaver from Chicago. And before we moved back to Beaver, we made the decision that we would raise our children, that we live in a big world with a lot of opportunities for them, and that we would try to prepare them education-wise to go wherever the greatest opportunity happened to be. If that happened to be in New York City, that would be in New York City. If it happened to be in Bangladesh, that's where it would be. If it happened to be back in Beaver, that's where we would want them to go. And so far, that's what they have done. I've got a son in New York City right now, daughters that have been in many different places, but are currently being educated at Utah State.
What is the problem that that communities have? I mean, there's a lot of talk about boom and bust economies that happen with resource development. What can economic developments in counties do to try to offset that cyclical nature?
The boom and bust comes about because of the commodity prices. And the natural resources, by and large, are commodities. And there needs to be a diversification of the skills that it takes to develop commodities like coal or gas or oil or wind or whatever, and take those skills and diversify them to broaden the economy and to help level out those ups and downs, and to grow the local businesses and provide them the needed resources, both education and skilled workforce, to diversify.
So Carbon County is taking the approach of we've got a business infrastructure in place. Let's take that and point our efforts at expanding that and making those local businesses a little bit broader, a little bit stronger. And then as the second component, diversifying the educational opportunities so that when this section of the commodity market in your county starts to decline, another one might be in rise, and that workforce can easily shift. Is that the idea?
The skills are there. I mean, my wife and I have had the same attitude that Rob did. I've got an attorney, and the other three all have their master's degrees, at least one master's degree. And my one son has two. And that education and that hard work ethic grew up in rural Utah and wants to come back, but needs the opportunity to do so. And that opportunity comes in that diversification, in that broadening of markets and skill sets that the local companies have but need to capitalize on them. And then there are some other infrastructure shortcomings that need to be overcome at the same time.
One of the things that Terry Wood mentioned in the story is that you have to be careful what you wish for in essence, because there's an appeal about rural Utah, and if you expand development too much, then you lose the rural nature of the state. Is that an agreeable statement to either one of you, or is that a concern?
It's an interesting issue, and I've thought a lot about it. Back when I was doing economic development for Beaver County, I used to look at projects in kind of a different way than a lot of people do. I would take the amount of capital investment involved in a project and divide it by the number of jobs created. And I wanted a really high number. And what that would do is it would put as much money as possible into the assessed valuation to our schools, hospitals, other forms of infrastructure, yet it wouldn't create so many jobs that it would overtax the system and overtax the way of life. The bad part about that is that you don't create hundreds of jobs, but wherever you create hundreds and thousands of jobs, a lot of those aren't really high-paying jobs.
That raises a very good point, because there are many who are arguing that there needs to be a shift instead of a mix. In other words, we've got these boom and bust rural economies, and instead of diversification and broadening, like you're talking about, they're just saying, let those commodity industries die off and replace them with service industries like tourism, and that tourism can become king, and that's what will drive the rural economies. But both of you disagree with that point and think that it's an important part of a broader mix instead of being the kingpin of a county's economic development plan.
To focus on just tourism is short-sighted. It does not produce family-sustaining jobs by the nature of the industry. And it's not that we don't want tourism, but it is one of several other industries and one of the utilization of a natural resource that Utah has an abundance of, and that's an incredible viewscape that needs to be there. But we can't rely on that any more than we can rely on only coal or only wind or only geothermal, that there needs to be a mix. And that's just good economics.
But there is a value in these jobs, in particular, and you mentioned it, that they're not family sustaining, but it is a training ground so that they can, the youth in the community can start to get their work skills and learn responsibility, but then they need a place to progress, because flipping burgers does not raise a family of four.
I've got 3 children that got their start in the workforce at Subway and the North Interchange in Beaver, and I'm very grateful for that being there.
I'm glad to know that I've helped support your children, because I've stopped there many a time.
Oh, good. Thank you.
We have about 45 seconds before a break, and so I just wanted to know from each of you very briefly, what is the number one thing that you think your county should focus on right now? Just a one-sentence summary, and then we'll come back for closing thoughts.
Grow the local businesses that are already there.
That's it?
That would be it.
I would say continue to develop the renewable resources that are in Beaver County. We've got great wind resources there in geothermal. There's also great solar potential. Those are good, high-paying jobs that can really bless the lives of the families that are there.
Do you ever, just real quick, do you ever wish that there was like an IPP or a First Wind or one of these things that would just all of a sudden appear on the horizon, like, I don't know, nuclear power or something out in your neck of the woods?
Well, we do have a nuclear power plant that's talking about our neck of the woods, but we do have businesses that are equally as impressive in their own right, and actually market and sell worldwide.
Great. Well, listen, we're going to come back here in just a minute. It's time for us to take a break, and when we come back, we'll continue this discussion. We'll have a wrap-up of your thoughts, and stay with us. We'll be back with more of the County Seat in just a minute.